Let's get educated. That's why we're here, to bring you the stories impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses. It's time for a little education.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Educated. I am Katie Petrick, and as always, joined by Mr. David Fiorazo, who, of course, looks dapper as always. Now, this morning, were you looking dapper when you had Worldview Matters?
No, actually, I didn't have these glasses, but and I had a different suit on. But I did talk to Nathan Jones of Lamb and Lion Ministries. A lot of you are going to love this. They focus much on Bible prophecy. In fact, their website, Christ in Prophecy. It was a good conversation, and we can have a lot more of those shows. People really like those. You can go to worldviewmatters.tv if you haven't subscribed, and that's just one email you'll get in your email inbox every Friday. So thanks for the plug.
No problem.
Okay, it's that time to talk about how America is indoctrinating its children to death. Mr. Alex Newman, we're going to see what he has cooked up. Actually, he's a great researcher and one of my favorite journalists. Just giving you a hard time, buddy. Hi, Alex. What's going on?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, last week we told you about the student government unanimously passing a series of measures called the Green New Deal at the University of Florida, my alma mater. And now the administration is striking back. The top-rated public university has just fired all of its full-time diversity, equity, and inclusion faculty all in one go. And they also shut down the Office of the Chief Diversity Officer. Not sure why they had an Office of the Chief Diversity Officer, but yeah, actually I am. But anyways, this move is going to save taxpayers millions of dollars. They say about $5 million so far, and really mixed reactions. The brainwashed zombies called students are whining, at least all the ones quoted in the fake media. Boo-hoo, our campus isn't going to have enough diversity, equity, and inclusion. Commies, socialists, Democrats, racists, LGBT extremists, America haters, all of them whining and whining and whining. But sensible people, taxpayers, conservatives, Republicans, normal people thought that this was great news. Now, if you're not familiar with DEI, I call it DIE, diversity, inclusion, and equity. These are just buzzwords, right? They conceal the real agenda here, which is not diversity. They hate diversity, right? You bring a conservative on campus or a Christian speaker on campus and see what happens. Equity, which for them means communism, and inclusion, which for them means excluding everyone who doesn't share their crazy worldview. Again, these are just buzzwords for hiding their evil agenda: Marxism, anti-Christian hate, identity politics, all the rest of it. And so what you have under the guise of diversity is you shut down all the voices you don't like and you elevate all the voices that parrot Marxism. Really an interesting thing. At its core, DEI is kind of like the new and improved version of critical theory, right? Where you divide people up into two categories, oppressor and oppressed, based on characteristics. Marx did it based on economic status. You're the bourgeoisie or you're the proletariat. The critical theorists in America typically choose other ideas lately, like race or gender, national origin, disability, age, things like this, right? And so you get to be in the oppressed category if you have slightly darker skin, if you pick a letter from the alphabet and have some perverted fetish, then you get to be oppressed. But if you have lighter skin or were born here or are a man or are a Christian, then you're automatically an oppressor, and therefore you must be destroyed. So really, it's a revolutionary strategy to bring down society and rebuild it in the model of the Soviet Union, communist China, communist Vietnam, communist Angola, communist Mozambique, communist Cuba, right? All the other wonderful paradises and utopias like North Korea that we've seen through the last century. So the UF had lots and lots of DEI officers. They're all over the place, right? Not just at the University of Florida. They're all over academia. They're all over government. The military has them now, right? They're all over the corporate world. And they act basically as the Western equivalent of the communist Chinese political commissars. Yeah, each organization has to have at least one to make sure everybody is in ideological conformity, make sure they're all spouting the same talking points. Now, State Board of Education Chairman here in Florida, Ben Gibson, he said DEI is really a cover for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. Of course, he's exactly right. Our governor has said similar things. Our governor called it toxic The State Board of Education chairman says this has no place in our state colleges at all, and our state colleges need to be focused on learning. Wow, imagine that. Colleges focused on learning. Of course, they're going to cry, right? The UF administration and the leadership of Provost Scott Engel sent out what they call an administrative memo. And in this memo, they said, hey, the Florida Board of Education Governors has prohibited us from spending any money on DEI. This was in response to a 2023 law. And so now they are getting rid of it. According to the regulation that they're talking about, DEI is any program, campus activity, or policy that classifies individuals on the basis of race, sex, national origin, gender, identity, or sexual orientation, and promotes differential or preferential treatment of individuals on the basis of such classification. In other words, pretty much everything that a modern university does. So they closed down their Office of the Chief Diversity Officer, got rid of all the DEI positions. They even got rid of the administrative appointments. They halted all contracts with outside vendors related to this kookiness, and saved all the money and put it into a fund for recruitment. Lots of firings. They said in the memo that under the direction of UF Human Resources, university employees whose positions were eliminated will receive UF's standard 12 weeks pay. And about a dozen full-time employees were let go, they said, and almost 15 administrative appointments were eliminated. But of course, don't celebrate yet. Don't pop the champagne just yet. Those DEI Marxist officials may just pop up in new jobs. In fact, they said in the memo, these colleagues are encouraged to apply between now and Friday for expedited consideration for different positions, right? So they can brainwash and hurt the children or overgrown children in different positions. They said UFHR will work to fast-track the interview process, provide an answer on all applications within the 12-week window. They also emphasized their core values, which universal human dignity, which kind of conflicts with the DEI thing, which is interesting. And they did say they would educate students thoughtfully engaging in a wide range of ideas and views, which, of course, as a Gator, I know that's not true, right? I could count on one hand the number of conservatives I met in the faculty there. But despite all this brouhaha, the left-wing extremism, the identity politics are not going anywhere. I told you the students were whining and crying that they weren't going to have enough diversity and equity, but they are, right? Actually, the university still has lots of DEI type things. They've got a Center for Inclusion and Multicultural Engagement. This includes offices for Asian Pacific Islander DESI student engagement, Black student engagement, Hispanic Latinx, is it Latinx or Latinx or who knows? I heard Hispanics think that's racist. Hispanic Latinx student engagement, a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer student engagement office, and so much more. Lots of other universities across Florida are also eliminating their DEI programming. But, of course, you and I know that this is like a Frankenstein, right? You just can't kill it. It'll keep coming back and back and back. So this is a good step, obviously a good first step in the right direction, shutting down the DEI bureaucracy, saving taxpayers a bunch of money, protecting students from the hate, the indoctrination, the discrimination, the absurdity that is DEI. But this war is far from over, folks. Don't think that University of Florida is going to be a safe place to send your youngsters. It is definitely not a safe space, to borrow language from the Looney Tunes. The God-hating, America-hating, family-hating zealots still remain firmly entrenched all throughout academia, even here in the Sunshine State. So hopefully this is just the first step among many, but stay tuned for more.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on pristine quality bedding, towels, slippers, signature pillows, and much more when you use the code EDUCATED. That's EDUCATED. EDUCATED. Support this show and a great American company.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. I'm Dr. Duke, and I'm joined today by Alex Newman. Alex, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me, Duke.
Good to be with you. And we have some really crazy stuff happening. You have a white male who is bigger and stronger and faster by far than all the other girls in this very small school, actually hurting girls. Let's take a look at the video, and I'll turn it over to you, Alex.
Sylvia Hatchell's with us, former head basketball coach for the University of North Carolina Lady Tar Heels, the fifth most career wins in women's college basketball history. One thing that's sort of bothered me from the beginning about this, especially when it's a physical sport, that there's so clearly a difference, right? Average male player, 6 feet, wingspan 5'6", vertical jump 28 inches. Average women's players, 5'6", I think this is in high school, 5'2", and a 20-inch wingspan. There's no comparison here, and obviously we can see the video. This individual we're talking about is over 6 feet tall, clearly physically very different. Do you have any idea why young men want to compete against young girls? I don't get it.
Well, maybe he's not that successful playing against men, and he can feed his ego and be successful playing against females. Title IX was passed to make things fair and equal for females, and having to play against transgenders is not fair and it's not equal.
Alex, I mean, this is pretty stunning. That video, he just throws her around like a rag doll. And then notice, he does not even bother to stop, to pause, to see if she's okay. He's more interested in throwing the basketball to the hoop and walking away as if he's accomplished something big time.
Yeah, it's really actually quite scary. What kind of parent would be okay with this happening to their daughter? I just cannot understand. And what kind of parent would be okay with their son doing this and behaving like this? I mean, something has gone terribly, terribly wrong when parents on either side can accept this, when society at large can accept this, when a school can be complicit in this. I mean, there's just so much blame to go around here. And frankly, one of the first things you learn as a child is you never, as a boy, you never lay your hands on a girl. You never hit a girl or hurt a girl. I mean, this is something that normal parents drill into their sons from the time they're tiny because it's so unacceptable. And yet here, we're all supposed to keep silent about it to avoid being transphobic. It's totally bonkers, Duke.
Yeah, and here's a thought that I don't think I've heard from anybody else. You can tell me if you've heard it, because this bothers me. So when we're dealing with high school sports, right, there are divisions. There are designations made, right? You've got the big schools with all the big boys, and then you have smaller, more rural districts, right? Football from Division I all the way to Division V. Younger, smaller boys, less competitive teams in rural areas. They're not playing the top flight boys. So certain boys are playing against the big boys, right? So when it comes to all male and all female sports, we make a distinction, don't we? About abilities and about locations. So we make it clear that even when boys are playing against other boys, it's not completely a level playing field. But yet when it comes to this, actually having a male beating up on a relatively small bunch of high school girls in a rather small little division, that's perfectly normal. And that's social justice, Alex. How do you square that circle?
Yeah, it's the internal contradictions. I mean, the cognitive dissonance that you see among the people advocating this stuff are just so out of control. You almost can't believe they're real, and yet we know that they are. And then in addition to hurting these little girls physically, throwing them around the court, knocking them over, making them look like rag dolls, what happens after the game is done? Well, they're all going to go get in the showers, and there he's going to be staring at them. I mean, it's just... It's so unbelievable, Duke. And I encourage people to think back to just 5 years ago, just 10 years ago, right? We're not talking about eons ago. Just think back 5 or 10 years ago. Any normal person would have looked at this in horror. And yet today, we're not supposed to say anything to avoid being politically incorrect. Where is this going to lead in the next 5 or 10 years, folks? Put your thinking caps on here for a moment, to borrow some language from my first grade teacher. Put your thinking cap on and think about the implications of this. Think about the acceleration of these changes, if you want to call them that, and where this is going to end up. We are on the highway to hell here.
You make a great point. And you remember just 3 or 4 years ago, all the outrage was on the side of parents, mothers, coaches, like we saw in the video. It's amazing to me, Alex, how incredibly overwrought the left is. After watching that video, the school, this particular Massachusetts school itself, makes no apologies for letting that man trample on girls. Take a look at the letter that we have from the school. This is from Collegiate Charter School, right? It's a very tiny little charter school. It's not even really a big time public school. The charter school, and I thought we were told, Alex, that the charter schools were going to fix these kind of problems. Charter school supports decision to forfeit the game. So this is Kip Academy playing another small school, right? And completely overmatched. And so This is what they said in Lowell, Massachusetts. On February 8th, the coach of the collegiate charter school of Lowell girls basketball team decided to end a game. The coach refused to put the kids back on the court after watching a third player injured. This is 3, not just the one you just saw, in a game with KIPP Academy. The bench was already depleted going into the game, with the 12-player roster having 4 players unable to play. When the coach saw 3 more girls go down in the first half, leaving him with only 5 players, he made the call to end the game. The upcoming charter school playoffs were looming, and he needed a healthy, robust bench. And, of course, you saw the girl thrown around. One of those injuries was the young girl who sustained back problems because of the way that the ball was ripped away from her and she was knocked to the ground. And so what you have here is a circumstance where the KIPP Academy is boasting and bragging that they've done the right thing. They are absolutely proud of that player and their team. Not a word about the injuries. And also, we are glad and happy to conform to the Massachusetts and federal guidelines for allowing inclusivity in all of these organizations. I have a thought, Alex. I just want to throw this at you. You know what somebody needs to do just to send a message? Have 5 senior high school basketball players from a really good team identify as women for one game, show up at one of these games, and play as women against these little girls, and really show them what the difference is. Because what's the difference between this 6-footer doing that, if you had a whole team do that, and then demonstrate to all the world what an embarrassment this is? I guarantee you that would wake some people up.
Yeah, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, there was a soccer game played by the U.S. women's team versus a bunch of boys in Dallas. I think there were 14 or 15, and the boys beat the pants off of them. But frankly, Duke, this is a really sad commentary, not just on the state of the culture, but on the state of American men. Men have an instinct to protect women. How a bunch of men could stand around while little girls are getting thrown around the court and injured by a man, it just tells you how emasculated, how indoctrinated, how pathetic American men have been. And it's not entirely their fault, I suppose. There's been a concerted effort to emasculate men, going back to the Frankfurt School, when they started parroting the nonsense about the authoritarian father who had fascist tendencies because he protected and led his family and his children and his wife. But I mean, now we're at the point where presumably fathers are in the audience watching their daughters being thrown on the ground by a man, and they're too politically incorrect to even say something. I mean, imagine these people trying to defend our country from an actual invasion. Right? If you can't defend your own daughter from a guy beating her up on the basketball court, we are in huge trouble. I mean, the implications of this, Duke, are just stunningly huge.
Well, you use the word emasculation, and you and I and most of the normal of the world would see that as a bad thing. What's so scary is that emasculation is exactly what the LGTB is about. It's what the feminists at the universities are about. It's what drives the transgender movement. It's not really about empowering women to be men, because you don't see any women, almost no women who identify as men are playing against the men because they can't really do it. But the emasculation argument, right, to get rid of all these toxic males. This is where intersectionality comes into play, right? Where how is it that the feminists are more on the side of men wanting to be women than they are on the side of women? And again, no one's really talking about this, because what they're getting for their trade-off is widespread emasculation of men generally, removing men from the positions that they have in families, like you said, leadership positions, the heads of households. So the feminists are getting much more than they think they're losing. Who cares if a couple girls across the country get beaten up by men in sports? We're driving more and more boys and men to identify not as men at all. There is much more to talk about, but for the rest of the story, check out the full episode of The Dr. Duke Show.
If you have a smartphone, tablet, Roku, or Apple TV, consider downloading the Freedom Project Media app. It's 100% free and includes all of our weekly shows, plus lecture series, archive programs, and award-winning animated videos for families like the Presidential Minute, Battles of America, and heroes of the West. Don't rely on the social media giants to keep you informed. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app from your app store and allow notifications. And we'll let you know when a new video is ready.
Excellent. It's time now for Rank and File. Our producer, Michael, has picked 5 things for us to rank. And David, nor myself, we haven't seen them. I don't even know what's going on. So, with the Academy Awards in mind, not my mind, in Mike's mind, because he watches every movie that has ever been made. Ask him to read a book, though, and he's lost. But he knows the Academy Awards and all the movies that are out there. So, apparently, the Oscars are happening. I didn't know this. This week, we are going to be ranking 5 films that received Best Picture awards at the Oscars.
This year?
I know that they have actually.
Oh, okay.
We're going to have to go back in time because I don't know then. This is going to be an interesting one. David, do you watch many Oscar award winning?
No.
Well, this is going to be fun. All right, let's do this. Ooh, Gladiator. I've never seen Gladiator.
Yes.
I hear it's great.
You haven't seen it?
No, I'm not big into the fighting battle type movies. I'm a girl.
3.
3.
Are you mocking me?
No, I'm not, because I don't know where to put it. I'm going to say it's 3.
3. All
Gladiator.
Right. Good. Next.
Russell Crowe's all right. Ooh, Godfather. Again, haven't seen Godfather, but I know it's supposed to be amazing. I'll just give it my number 1 because as a nod to your Italian heritage.
Godfather, the number 1.
Sure.
Wow.
Sure, why not? Because I'm lost here. What about you?
So, I mean, gosh, the content and the violence and it was a good movie. Great acting, I guess. I don't know. I will put it at number 4.
Ooh, okay. Let's see. Oh, Rocky.
Rocky, okay. Go ahead.
Haven't seen Rocky.
Oh,
I am the worst
seriously.
at this. 2.
Everybody, put your comments in and tell Katie to go watch Rocky.
Can I get paid to do it? I'll do it.
Sure. All right, what's your ranking then? If you
2.
I'll go for number 2 also.
Oh, Titanic. Now here's one I've seen.
Oh,
see, you talk about, well, it's not so much comedy in this
Here's
one.
one
There's
that was
a little
so
bit.
far from reality.
I only have the 4 or 5 spot left, so I guess number 4 it is for me.
5.
Ooh, what? Do you not like Leo? Oh!
Forrest Gump, number 1. All
okay,
right.
I like this. You know why? And come at me with it.
Have you seen this?
Yes, I did. When I was a kid.
Oh my goodness.
Up until a few years ago, I could not look at Gary Sinise because him as Lieutenant Dan scared the bejeebus out of me.
It's good going back and looking at some of these older movies, and because some of the stuff that's come out in the last 5 or 10 years, it's just what Hollywood thinks it's great and might be
no
some
one
good
has
acting,
seen those movies.
Mostly in America go, I don't know, it's just about garbage. Anyway.
So I'm safe by saying I haven't seen a lot of the Oscar movies. The old ones, I get in trouble, but no one name me any one Oscar-winning movie, like the best film from the past 10 years. Name one.
I don't think I could do that, and I used to live out there.
That's how we do rank and file around here. So we want to know your thoughts and opinions because you just heard ours.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week. For Katie and myself, thanks for watching, listening, sharing, and supporting the show. Until next week, stay educated.